Welcome to Pro-Stitcher Lite tutorials. I'd like to walk you through some of the basics of Pro-Stitcher Lite on the workspace. So let's take a look at the screen and I'll walk you through the buttons. To start with, we have the tabs across the top. Select only one tab at a time, and you can select any tab to display its buttons, which are on the ribbon below the tabs. The buttons on the ribbon change whenever you choose a different tab. Only one button on the ribbon can be selected at a time. The buttons on the ribbon can change what's happening over here in the sidebar. The sidebar's on the right-hand side of the screen. The sidebar includes buttons for the functions tied to the various ribbon buttons. The sidebar tabs relate to other aspects of the workspace. Next, we have the workspace toolbar. It's these buttons right here: select, pan, and zoom. The workspace toolbar is located on the top left of the workspace, and it's always visible. Only one button can be selected at a time. Let's start with the select button. You touch the select button on the workspace toolbar, then touch a design to select it. A message scrolls on the right side of the screen to indicate that a design is selected or not selected. If the design was already selected, touching the design unselects it, like this. You can use your finger to draw a marquee box on the screen after touching the select tool. Any design that overlaps within the marquee box will be selected, like this. I touch and drag, and the design will be selected. Next, we have our pan tool. Use the pan tool to move what you see on the workspace. When I put my finger here and move around, it is just changing my view. It's not actually moving my design. Pan does not reposition the design relative to the quilt. We can also use these sliders at the bottom of our workspace to pan with. Next, we have our zoom tool. Use the zoom to view a section of the design larger or smaller. If you have grid lines displayed on screen, you'll see the grid lines also shrink and grow as you zoom the design. To zoom into an area, select zoom, which I've done there. Next, use your finger to drag a marquee box around the area you'd like to see larger. You can also use the zoom in and zoom out buttons in the status bar at the bottom right of the workspace screen here. If I touch the plus, I zoom in, the minus will zoom out, and I can use the slider bar right here to move in and out. Let's talk about some of the other tools that you'll use most in the Pro-Stitcher workspace. Baseline is a button over in the quick access tools right here. Baseline freezes the modification you have made to the design. All modifications after you baseline treat the design as a new, unaltered design. However, baseline does not save the design to your library. Use baseline anytime you finish a modification before moving on to another modification or before stitching. Your baseline tool is also located under the Modify tab and then on the ribbon right there. As you can see right now, mine is grayed out because I have already used the baseline feature. If I make a change to my design, my baseline becomes available again and I can touch it to once again freeze those changes. Next, let's talk about the crosshairs on the screen. You can see my crosshairs moving right now. It's those orange lines that cross each other. The crosshairs represent the needle position in the workspace. Crosshairs can be 3 different colors. Right now, my crosshairs are orange because they're engaged. That means my motors are engaged and the carriage can actually move my machine. If I go to the Pro-Stitcher tab, the gears button on the ribbon, if I tap it now, it's going to turn purple. This disengages my gears for free motion quilting. There's another option that we can use. It's when my crosshairs turn green. This means I'm in simulation. Because I'm at my Pro-Stitcher tablet right now, I'm not going to turn my crosshairs green because I would have to restart it to go into simulation. You'll most often see this if you have Pro-Stitcher Lite installed on a Windows-based computer and you're using it in simulation. I'm going to re-engage my gears, and let's talk about just a little reminder here. You always want to bring your design to the crosshairs, just like I'm doing on the screen right now. My crosshairs then I'll touch my refresh button. The crosshairs or needle position are used with the reposition function to determine the design position. Reposition is found under the Modify tab and then right here on the ribbon. Your next two favorite buttons that you'll use the most are right here in the quick access tools, Undo and Redo. You can use the Undo button to undo the last function performed. And actually, you can keep touching Undo until you get back to where you want to be. You can do the same thing with Redo. You can use the Redo button if you change your mind about the last undo action. Let's talk about the motors up here in the corner. So when I tap this button, it just locked my motors, meaning that my machine is now locked in place and it will not move. If I tap it again, my motors are unlocked. That means that I can move my machine around. If you happen to see a lightning bolt in this area, that means that you've had a motor error. You can just tap right there on top of where the lightning bolt would be. It would be in place of the little lock icon there. You can tap that to reconnect your motors, but just a reminder, you will need to reposition your design when you've done that. And bringing up our last feature I want to talk to you about is our help button right here. This is such an awesome button. It displays context-sensitive on-screen help. You select the help button first, then I can touch any tab or button on a ribbon and it will give me an explanation of how it works and how to use it. I hope this overview has been helpful, and I hope you have fun using your new Pro-Stitcher Lite.